Congressman Chip Roy from the great Republic of Texas joins us. He's in the swamp right now. So this, you called it the War, Debt, and Open Borders Bill. It is not a border security bill, you said. The bill is not well intended. It's a bill designed by Democrats to boost Biden against Trump by helping Democrats blame Republicans for open borders. Now, I've been reading this 300 some odd page bill. It's worse than what we had. The two things that stick out to me, the stripping of AG power or reducing the effectiveness of attorneys general by taking everything to the D.C. circuit is insane to me, giving them like sole authority to determine everything on detention, immigration. And then so we're now deciding we're going to allow this many crimes to occur before we decide to say, OK, that's the quota. No more crimes. We're going to stop it now. That's where we are, the 1.8 million.
Well, Dana, no, it's great. I'm actually in a great mood. I actually watched Chosen in the theater with my family last night. I had a good time with my family. I flew to D.C. and I
didn't mean to misrepresent you. I'm sorry, Congressman.
No. I actually enjoy this because right now, my feeling is that the bill is dead. And that's a good thing. Now, we need to make sure that everybody understands that. We need to make sure that Senate Republicans should kill this on cloture. They shouldn't even get it out of the Senate. That's our goal right now. But it's dead in the House. Steve Scalise said he won't give it floor time. Mike Johnson has said it's dead on arrival. But here's what's important. I'm trying to debate even how much airtime to give to this, because let's be clear why Democrats want to do this. It's exactly what you just read from my tweet thread. They want to put something out there they claim is a compromised border security, and they want to say we killed it, and therefore the border problem is on us. They don't want to own that which they've created, right? They're the ones that created this mess. Joe Biden comes in, he ends migrant protection protocols, remain in Mexico, all sorts of like 50-something executive orders and actions. Mike Johnson did a great job cataloging those, put out a list where they opened up our border. And I know you've got a really smart audience, but just so everybody understands what's actually happening, right? The law, the spirit and the text of our existing law says that you shall maintain operational control of the border. And then there are some exceptions and loopholes to that. Loopholes that were created by judges, right? It's called the Flores settlement, TVPRA, it's called. They're little judge-made loopholes. And then the exceptions in our law, Congress has passed for asylum and parole, which are meant to be case-by-case exceptions in the case of asylum for credible fear of persecution, and a parole for very specific cases where, we need to bring you in because you're in some problem in China or whatever. But now they've taken that and used those exceptions and those loopholes to flood the zone and say anybody can come here, say the magic words, and we'll release you. They've done it purposely. We set out to fix that executive branch abuse with H.R. 2. And frankly, the bill that I introduced, you'll remember H.R. 29, which was designed to say, you shall detain or you shall turn away. That was my bill, right, which I still think is the best approach, like 4 pages. We did H.R. 2, and we embedded that concept into a broader package, fixed asylum, fixed parole, fixed a bunch of provisions, fund the wall, include the basic point that you shall detain, put in removal proceedings, or you're going to stay in Mexico. That was basically what we drafted. They're now coming in with Democrats to create cover, pass this bill that will do the opposite. It does more than what you just said. It's even worse. $1.4 billion for the NGOs that are tied to the United Nations, pumping people through Mexico to send people into the United States. $4 billion to hire asylum officers, end run judges, process people, get them into the United States under a 180-day clock so they're not detained too long, while they would then, if they're detained too long, they would put them in, they'd immediately release them under alternatives to detention. The point is, it's all a ruse. It would end up codifying illegal immigration, as Daniel Horowitz put it, right? You're legalizing illegal immigration to the tune of 2 million people a year. So that's too much in the weeds, but you've got a smart audience. I want them to understand it. The bottom line is politically, it's dead. In my opinion, we need to make sure, bullet in it, kill it. And then we need to pivot. And I think we need to pivot to say, we need to be back on offense, cramming H.R. 2 back down the throats of the Senate. That's my message to Mike Johnson.
I like the 4-page, talking to Congressman Chip Roy, I like the 4-page, it's very simple. 4 pages, everybody can read it, with their coffee in the morning before they head out to work, because this thing, 300-something pages dropped last night. My gosh, we're scrambling before the show to get everything read. So we were talking about on air today. And then they're making you all determine policy in that time frame.
Right. And the worst part is in the House, we get time to read it, kill it, figure out what we're going to do. The Senate, they got to vote on it, I think, by tomorrow. So, Mike Lee has been, tweeting this out all last week saying, guys, you guys have been doing this in secret. We're going to have to review this bill over the weekend. Now, the good news is it's so bad that it's pretty easy for us to take shots at it. I mean, it's really hard to defend. I mean, I'll listen to, at some point, somebody who's trying to defend it, I guess, but I don't really understand how you can defend what they're doing with respect to releasing people in the United States, the asylum officers I just described. The really good point you made where all these courts go into D.C. Remember in H.R. 2, we also empowered AGs to sue in federal court if we weren't doing the job. That would be in the Fifth Circuit in Texas. That would be in the circuit courts, not in D.C. Importantly, we fixed asylum, we fixed parole, all of those kinds of things. There's nothing in this bill that requires building the wall. I already talked about the NGOs. There's so much stuff. I'm trying to remember.
There's only what is it? A fraction of this out of the 118 billion. It's only what 60 billion that goes to the border. Or no, not even.
It's 20
billion.
So,
Sorry, 20 billion.
It's $60 billion goes to Ukraine. So again, that's a really important part. This is a war bill. Ukraine, it's got money for Israel. Of course, we all support Israel, although we should come back to that in a minute. Money in there for Taiwan and other stuff, and then 20 billion in there for border security. But it's not really for border security. Not to really help build the wall and all of that. It's to fund the processing of more illegal aliens who come here and claim asylum and can't and don't have a legitimate claim. Also, we're funding lawyers. We're going to fund lawyers for children and other illegal aliens, not just children. And that's going to be a magnet. And oh, by the way, unaccompanied alien children, they're left out of the detention requirements. So what does that mean? More of these bad actors will use children as their ticket to get in, like not their real children. They'll grab a child, come here, use them to get into the United States. So this is the problem we're having.
And that's the exact problem that was under Obama Biden. That's why they started the separation of families, that whole phrase at the border, but way before Trump, because of that with the Flores settlement. That was one of the things that I'd actually encouraged to touch back on. And we'll switch to the Israel funding part of this. The 20 billion, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I had read that the Marine Corps' entire fiscal year 2024 was 53 billion. That was the request, and it's 60 billion. That's earmarked for Ukraine in this.
Ukraine is going to get more money than the Marine Corps budget. That is true. And look, you can have an honest debate, I suppose, on what we should or shouldn't do about Ukraine. I've got my problems with sending another dollar to Ukraine at all. But just if you think that's so important, let's just put a clean, straight up or down vote on the floor. Let's have a full 2 weeks of debate. Let's debate the pros and cons. Let's let the hawks, the doves, the people who are kind of in the middle, have a big full debate the funding, pay for that funding, and then debate it back and forth. But we don't do that. No, it's a swamp bill, all unpaid for, all jammed through, trying to leverage people's concern about the border to try to masquerade getting an actual war bill, a war machine bill, through the swamp. One other important part, I think, that merits conversation is that every bit of this is borrowed. The full $118 billion, the $60 billion for Ukraine, the Taiwan, the border. It's $118 billion of additional money, fully borrowed, not paid.
Wow. Talking with Congressman Chip Roy, I know that Speaker Johnson had said that he wants a standalone bill regarding Israel aid. Tell me about this. Is it because I just don't see something like that going through even the Senate? I don't see Democrats joining onto that.
Well, I mean, I'm a little torn on that one. I think at the end of the day, the Senate probably they would have to eat it and say that they're going to do it for Israel. It's a tough vote for them, but I'm not sure.
And how much even? What amount even?
Republicans plus a few Democrats probably get it done. But I don't support it. And that's hard for me, right? And I'm sure you're in the same boat in terms of your support of Israel. I love Israel. I love going to Israel. I love the people of Israel. I want them to wipe Hamas off the face of the planet. I want them to defend themselves. And I want to continue to stand by Israel. I support the money that's in our normal defense budget, which is about $4 billion, to work with them on Iron Dome and to make sure we stand alongside them. But for me to go to my constituents in Texas and tell them that I'm going to go pay for, I'm not going to pay for $17.6 billion. We're going to borrow money, give it to Israel, and we're not going to secure the border of the United States. So unpaid for, racking up debt, and no security for our border. I can't look my constituents in the eyes and say, I'm going to go give money to our friend, even our best friend, right? My best friend over here who's got a tough time going on. And over here, my family's getting absolutely mauled because my border's open and we're spending money we don't have. It's as I said in my tweet about Israel, there's not going to be a United States of America to stand with Israel if we keep spending money we don't have and if we're not a sovereign nation with secure border. That's just the truth.
I think that's the best explanation I've heard of it. Is your position on it right there?
Well, and that is it, because I love Israel, and I reached out to a lot of my Jewish friends and constituents. I said, look, I hate this. Right, I want to be right there side by side with Israel. God bless me. Like I said, I was watching the shows.
But we can't afford it because we don't have the money. Like you said, it's not paid for. We are borrowing from our future, and it's not even to secure our own domestic situation here, our southern border.
Right. It would be one thing if we're not going to solve the $2 trillion deficit in one fell swoop. I get that. It'd be one thing if like right now, if we were going to pass a continuing resolution for the rest of this year that capped spending at 1564, which is basically where it would be, which would save us about $100 billion. That would be responsible-ish. If we were doing something to secure our border, if we were taking steps that we need to do here at the home front on, say, energy policy, those kinds of things. And I'm seeing that happen. And then I was like, okay, Chip, can we eat $17 billion unpaid for Israel? Or can we go take some other funds, some COVID slush fund money or something, and pay for Israel? I'd say, you bet. I want to be there with Israel. That's a good use of money to fight our enemies, to fight Hamas, to fight Hezbollah, and to push back on Iran. That's in our interest. It's in their interest. It's in the world's interest. It's in the interest of Western civilization. But right now, look, we're just getting sucker punched left and right. And I'm telling you, this country is hanging on by a very thin thread. In fact, America, in about 5 years, if we keep on this current trajectory, I don't know that we would have the votes to withstand giving the Palestinians a two-state solution and walking away from Israel. So we better get our home front secure first.
That's a very important point, I think, that you just made here talking with Congressman Chip Roy. We're out of time right now, but I'd love to have you back always whenever you got any.
Sure.
I mean, I like the way that you explain that, because there, without the nuance and without actually discussing it, like, for instance, the issue with Israel, there's a lot of false characterizations that are put out there, and it's silly. It's silly when you can just hear 60 seconds of him explaining it like he just did. Congressman Chip Roy, we appreciate you. Thank you for your fight.
God bless, man. Take care.
Of course.